speculation rampant the last couple of days about what the U.S. are going to do, whether they actually do want to get involved militarily. Big story from our Bloomberg colleagues overnight. What do we know?
Very much so. So the U.S. is preparing for potential strikes. So I think we've got to the point now where whatever the U.S. might do, those plans are in place, and they can go instantly if Donald Trump decides that that's what he wants to do. We're still very unclear at the moment exactly what those plans are, whether it would be the U.S. Focusing on limited strikes on specific nuclear facilities such as Fordo or maybe the Natanz underground facilities, for example, or if it would be something wider, targeting many more military facilities and perhaps even senior Iranian officials. And let's not forget, in the past few days, there's been plenty of speculation about whether the U.S. would try, or Israel would try, between them, they'd try and take out Iran's supreme leader. So there's lots of options, but it's pretty clear at the moment that the U.S. can go very quickly if that's what Donald Trump
and
decides.
Yet, we heard from the Iranian supreme leader yesterday. He said that he predicts irreparable damage on U.S. assets should they deem the U.S. to have been involved militarily in strikes. How should we read those comments and the rest of what he said?
I think it's important. So he put out a statement yesterday, the Supreme Leader. There was a lot of defiance, I think. Well, that's how I read it in his words. He essentially said there will be no surrender. And yes, he's threatened to attack U.S. assets across the region if the U.S. either joins in with the Israeli strikes or carries out, strikes on its own. And important to note, that is something that is very much front and center of the minds of some of Donald Trump's main supporters, some of his MAGA base. There's a bit of a split within them, and there are plenty of, let's call it his high-profile supporters who do not want the U.S. to do this and think this would just embroil the U.S. in another foreign war. So that's something that Donald Trump will be weighing with his most senior advisors.
I was looking at a YouGov poll that was put out overnight suggesting that the U.S. public on both sides of the aisle, by the way, are very much, the overwhelming majority is opposed to the U.S. getting involved militarily in this war. Just to round things up, Paul, what are we actually seeing in terms of attacks and counterattacks between Israel and Iran over the last couple of days? From what I've seen, the intensity of Iranian attacks on Israel seems to have slowed down, but not vice versa.
Yes, I think that's essentially what it is. So when it comes to Iranian attacks on Israel, Iran is still firing ballistic missiles daily, but the number of those has dropped quite significantly since Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And we've done a few stories on this, and we did one yesterday pointing out that Israel has taken the first steps, if you like, to reopen the economy. It wasn't totally shut down, but it's easing some of the rules that are put in place to make sure people were as safe as possible. And this is either a sign that Iran's launch sites are damaged because Israel has been very much prioritizing hitting those launch sites, and or that Iran is trying to preserve its stockpiles. When it comes to attacks on places like Tehran and other sites in Iran, they are still continuing the whole time. And one thing that was important in the last few hours was that Israel asked or put out a Farsi social media post calling on people in the Arak region to evacuate. That's a site of a key nuclear facility. There's a deep water reactor there, and we don't know what Israel is planning, of course, but it is possible that they will look for a strike on that facility, and that there is a danger of some kind of radiological leak or something like that.